So Right Wing Watch was covering this preacher named Joshua Feuerstein, and he went viral because he said this.
Listen to me. I understand, and let me speak now to the cameras around the world, to every pastor that's watching this broadcast, to every Christian that is cowered in your home. I realize that for this last year that maybe you've been fed fear and fear and fear, but the Bible says that God has not given us the spirit of fear, but of power and of love and a sound mind. You have a sound mind. You don't have to wear the mask. You got Jesus. You don't need the vaccine. You got Jesus.
Jesus Christ. No pun intended. You don't have to wear the mask. You've got Jesus. You don't need the vaccine. You've got Jesus. You should probably wear the mask, and you should probably get the vaccine, and you're going to be a hell of a lot better off, man. I've seen so many stories now about, and granted, the media is probably looking for these things on purpose, but there's so many stories of, like, people who didn't get the vaccine, and then they're basically on their deathbed, and they're like, God damn it, why didn't I just get the vaccine? I should have gotten it. And they warn people, and they're like, go do it. I'm telling you to go do it. It's super important. So, but you watch this and you think, really? This late date, how long have we been in this pandemic now? How many bodies have piled up? What do we have? Over 620,000 or something like that? Americans who died? Over 4 million people in the world. At what point would a dude like this be, you know what? Maybe saying a prayer on some rosary beads ain't gonna cut it, son. Like, at what point would you be like, all right, does it have to be 700,000 deaths? 1 million deaths in the United States alone? Does it have to be 1 billion deaths worldwide? And then think about this historically. Imagine this guy during, and this happened quite a bit, but during like the bubonic plague, or the Spanish flu, some of the worst pandemics that we've ever seen. If we looked back in history and you read in history books that there were people who were saying, just fucking say a prayer, bro. Say a prayer, walk it off, you're good. We'd be like, oh my God, what a ridiculous primitive time where they don't believe in science and modern medicine. And I mean, they're doing the functional equivalent of trying to cure cancer by rubbing some snake oils on your testes. What are we talking about here? And you know what? The thing that really gets to me is that how many people actually listen to this guy and watch this guy and are like, nailed it. I agree. And why does everything have to be a conspiracy? It's so funny. The people who are the most anti-vaccine are also the most anti-mask. Not a good mix. You want to be at least pro one or the other. Not everything is this over-the-top conspiracy. Sometimes a cigar is just a cigar. Sometimes a pandemic is just a pandemic. Sometimes the medicine is just the medicine. Sometimes the vaccine is just the vaccine. If you really think praying to your sky wizard is going to help you, it's not going to help you. Man, there's over what? I remember I used to cite this number all the time on the show, but I haven't read it in a while. I think there's over 4,000 different religions on Earth. So let me ask you a question. How do we know which one's the right one? Seriously, that's a serious question. So everybody who thinks they definitely have the right one, you're sure that the 3,999 other groups are wrong. And you're right. I mean, just if you look at it just from a mathematical perspective, I don't like those odds, man. I don't like those odds. You're praying to Jesus, and what happens if you get sick and you're on your deathbed? Are you going to be like, God damn it, why didn't I pick Vishnu? Vishnu had to be the right one, right? Is it Vishnu? Like, just use your common sense. And I'm not, if anybody out there believes in whatever it may be, whatever your religion is, I'm not knocking you for that. You have the right to believe whatever you want to believe. But all I'm saying is, for the love of God, get the vaccine or wear a mask or both. Like, that's it. That's all I'm saying. Just if you think about this objectively, then you shouldn't think that it's enough to call on Jesus or call on Yahweh or call on the Greek gods or the Roman gods or whoever in order to protect you. Obviously, that's not enough. And if you look at it in any other context, like if somebody in the West, if this guy looked at somebody in a tribe in Africa dancing around a fire and doing a witch doctor chant to say, this is gonna protect you from the vaccine, what would that guy say about that guy? What would the Christian guy say about the person who's praying to tribal gods trying to get protection from the vaccine? He'd be like, so silly. You're the same thing. You're exactly the same thing. Grow up. For the love of God, grow up. Go get a Pfizer vaccine. Go get a Moderna vaccine. Go get a Johnson & Johnson vaccine. Go get an AstraZeneca vaccine. I don't give a fuck which one you pick. For the love of God, get one. It's going to help you. I promise. In the studies on the vaccine, I keep bringing up this fact because nobody else does, but in the original studies on the vaccine, not a single person was hospitalized or died from COVID if they got the vaccine. Not a single one. And these were big trials too. Let me remind you. A couple months ago in Maryland, they were tracking this. Guess what? 100% of the people who died in Maryland from COVID 2 months ago were unvaccinated. This is a pandemic of the unvaccinated. Yes, every now and then there's what's called a breakthrough case. Guess what? If you have a breakthrough case, you're very likely to just have the sniffles because the vaccine does work. The vaccine makes it so that if you're going to be moderately sick or severely sick, all of a sudden you just got the sniffles and it's nothing. And a lot of the breakthrough cases, it's asymptomatic as well. So they're super rare. They are super rare. And even when they happen, in most cases, the symptoms are not nearly as severe because you have the vaccine. So few people who have gotten the vaccine have died. And probably the overwhelming majority of the people who got the vaccine and then eventually died, it was just because they're old as hell or had some other issue. If you're 92 years old and you get the vaccine and 3 weeks later you die, is that the vaccine's fault? Or is it because you're 92 years old? So there's a lot of people are conflating a lot of nonsense here. Oh man, for the love of God, dude, stop being ridiculous. Joshua Feuerstein. I don't know what percentage of the population would look at this guy and say, I think he nailed it. But if it's 10 or 20%, even that I'm looking at like, oh, you poor souls, man. And I know they're never going to take it. They're never going to look at some leftist like me and say, this guy cares about me. But I do, because I care about humanity. And I don't want you to experience any suffering or any pain. And so I'm trying, even though I'm having fun with it and I'm animated, I really do want people to do the right thing and get the vaccine or wear a mask or both. And I don't want you to be misled by a bunch of charlatans. And make no mistake about it, that's exactly what this guy is. Final point. I don't know which preacher he's stealing his flow from, but he's stealing his flow from somebody. This is like when you see a white rapper who's obviously trying to copy Eminem, and I'm not knocking him no matter what business you're in. I know, for example, for the field I'm in, I have people that early on when I was doing this, I definitely was biting their style. And I would go back and look at it and I could hardly watch because it's like, oh my God, I'm just like a clone of all these other people who did this. So I don't know which pastor or preacher he's copying his flow from, but he's doing it from one of them. Is it John Hagee? John Hagee's a world-renowned far-right preacher. It seems like it might be Hagee. It seems like he might be copying Hagee's flow. Or there's some other, but he's putting on an act, that's for sure. It really looks like he's doing an act and he's trying to be somebody who he was inspired by. And it just speaks to the further level of that this is theatrics, is what it is. And like with a lot of the Fox News hosts, for example, who are doing like vaccine skeptical coverage, they're fucking vaccinated. They're vaccinated. So they're just sort of preaching to the choir and saying what they want to hear. I don't know if this guy really believes his stuff or not, but either way, you shouldn't believe him. Hey y'all, do me a favor and like and subscribe. It helps out big time in the algorithm. Click the bell as well for notifications when videos drop, and watch that video on screen right now. You know you want to.